Well, hello everybody. We are into another week of crap, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but at the end of this session, we will have definitive information on the best course of actions to take this week. This week from the 17th of September to the 23rd, we are in 2020, and I'm Chris McCleary with your CIRF report, so welcome. Let's get to the summary slide so we don't waste a bunch of time. And what are we looking at? We're looking at the purple circle here is the astrology. The astrology, folks, is just everything and anything that you want or don't want is in the astrology. We have a new moon. We have Mars retrograde in Aries. We have some sun trines. That's kind of the bright spot, as well as a grand fire trine late in the week. It's very brief, but the big news is the mega T square that's happening. And yes, Mars is involved. It's not the center of attention with Mars, but you'll see. And with this T square, it might feel like a trap, but when we combine all the different strategies together, so Dreambot says violence in the material world. We're going to get to that next. And then the I-Ching says, careful affection, like careful who you want affection with or careful of other people. So yeah, it's all related. It's all overlapped. I separated out the Dreambot, the green circle, from the I-Ching. I thought they were more on different sides of the continuum. The I-Ching is more of suspecting affection or keeping you from affection versus violence. Yeah, some people probably could see that as a high congruence and directly overlapping. I decided to go conservative there and see that it's two different things, but inside of the same overall flavor of conflict and mistrust. That's what we're working with, folks. And I think you'll be a little bit surprised with the solution. So hang in there. We're going to get started with the Dreambot first when we start drilling down these energies. Stick with me. Here we are with the Dreambot. Dreambot is the collection of dreams around the world. And there's two basic memes here that people are dreaming about. On the one side, there's violence. Is that day residue? Well, it could be. Could it be looking into the future? Yeah, surely. Well, and there's violence all the time, but when you're pounded to it by every source of media out there, from CNN to Fox News, but also even social media, what do you expect from dreams? So there's a lot of violence in the dreams. And then there's a lot of reality. It's not a real firm meme here, but it's all over the place, like bridge and park and cake and these log. And, the irony here is that the word fake is in here. So it's almost like is it fake? Is the 3D reality fake? But anyway, it's the material world. That's what it's referring to. Violence in the material world. Get it? All right. No more time there. Let's look at the astrology. Now, here's an aside. The Schumann resonance, the website's down again, and that was just 5 minutes ago. So you know what? I'm really starting to get mad at that website. That's, I think, 3 times we didn't have the data. So let's move on to the astrology. Yeah, Mars still in retrograde in Aries. So he's going to sweeten up his conflict with the status quo, Saturn, the way things have always been. So yeah, I mean, that follows also the meme with conjunction of Pluto and Saturn. Pluto being, hey, I want to change everything. I want to destroy and rebuild. And Saturn says, I want to keep everything the same. Those two are getting closer together. So it's the same kind of energy. We're fighting against the way things have always been. All right. And then the sun's going to transit into Libra. That should, normally that would produce a lot more harmony. Libra is, but the thing with Libra is when it's skewed. It's not really what is absolutely equal or justified. It's what the Libra thinks is justified. So it's based on a perception, which can be very erroneous. And I think that's what we're seeing here. So how do you know what's true these days? I mean, trying to ascertain the truth is very difficult these days because they're out for your mind. There's a battle for your mind. But anyway, that was a rabbit trail I didn't expect taking, but we have a trine in this with the sun's got a trine to Pluto, sun's got a trine to Saturn. You know, this is the mega trine that we're going to be talking about with the sun, and the ego feels easy with this energy. So it's easy to throw your identity into this mix of Jupiter, Saturn, Pluto. It's like this positive transformation of the way things have always been. I know it doesn't look very positive right now, but there is a silver lining. And I think this week, the silver lining of this week, because the rest I'm going to talk about will probably sound very negative, but the positive is that if you really look at your ego, which could be considered part of this material world, I mean, it's the material part of yourself, can be identified with this positive transformation. It's easy energy in and amongst the not anti-grand mega T-square that's coming up. All right, we have some inconjuncts with some adjustments. We'll talk about that. We do have a real quiet Jupiter sextile Neptune, so kind of like positive dreams and dreams that can show you wisdom. There's an opportunity there. And then the T-square begins. All right, let's go through it real quick here. Thursday the 17th. It's a megatrine versus, so there's the megatrine right there. You look at all that. You've got the new moon. This is 6 a.m. Central Time on the 17th, Thursday. New moon in Virgo. So, you know, it's a very paying attention sort of new moon. And there's the part of fortune that's going to transition. I mean, it's not really out there. It's not an entity out there. It's just a point in space that it's geometrically moving towards that new moon location. And so very fortunate and very detail-oriented new moon and a new cycle. And at the same time, a nice, beautiful, healthy trine over to this amoeba of three different planets that we've been talking about forever on these CIRF reports. But that energy is easy. It's a new cycle there. Now, that's the backdrop for what probably most people are going to see and feel in the material world, which is Mercury mega square over to the triplets and Mars double square over to the triplets. And that's going to remain there all week. So what does that feel like? It's like this energy or any hope of this reverse transformation or positive transformation of government or however you want to orchestrate that conglomeration of energy where this cursor is. Your thoughts are conflicted about it. That's Mercury. All your words seem to communicate antithesis of this, whatever you want to call it. And then Mars is the same way. Well, I mean, Mars is conflicted normally anyway, but it's the ability to get things done. It can be just the yang energy. Yang is not together with that amoeba. I mean, it's conflicted, and Mars is conflicted anyway in impulsive and selfish Aries. And so, you know, Mars is also making adjustments to the new moon, or vice versa. New moon making adjustments to your ability to do stuff and put things out, and maybe even fight for things that you want. That's all adjusting on Thursday. There's a lot happening. I mean, look at where was it? Venus. Oh, Venus doesn't have its adjustments yet. Hang on for that. All right, so that's the overview of Thursday. And Friday, look at all these conflicts. That's because the moon is starting to get close to Mercury. And then those triplets. So there's like 5 squares there. The sun's trines start waning off. And now you're left with adjustments. There's a lot of adjustments here. Mercury adjusting to dreams and vice versa. Jupiter adjusting to Venus. And so relationships are adjusting to wisdom, or optimism is being maybe changing based on the different relationships that you're having. And then the sun and the identity, your ego is adjusting, like we talked about with Mars. All right, you ready? Saturday the 19th. Looky what we have. It's not just a T-square. It's a mega T-square. Moon and Mercury together. You got the triplets, Jupiter, Pluto, Saturn, and you've got Mars. So it's a trap. And it's all the energy. The dominant energy of this Saturday is T-square. It's a trap. And there's not one opposition, but three. There's these two over here, but plus there's that Sun opposed Neptune. It's still there. So the balancing act is hard. It's all conflicted. Ideologies are different. Even Venus is adjusting. And so you've got this skepticism. You've got this I don't trust anybody kind of feeling. And maybe even a give up sort of a thing. If you've got Mercury opposing Mars, and this need for balancing out how you think about things, but impulsive Aries, who's in retrograde, is refighting old fights. And man, it's just a big old cycle. So we got to get out of our thoughts and emotions. Thoughts and emotions here are part of this trap. And so what do we do about this? Well, that's for the solution slide later on in this episode. Sunday the 20th, mega T-square, still lots of T-squares, still lots of adjustments. Monday, the part I wanted to focus on here, you still have the T-square, see that. But now you have Venus with two adjustments being made, with the old Jupiter, but also with dreams. And recall that earlier in the episode we talked about Jupiter sextile Neptune. There's a really cool philosophical, spiritual opportunity there. It's very spiritual alignment. And while your relationships in harmony and even your finances are going over an adjustment, this might be a collective sort of thing. This might be the time when the economy, the finances all shift over. Jupiter's more of like the old wise guy, but real positive, like Santa Claus. So maybe there's some sort of Santa Claus with finance coming in and around this week, maybe having to do with early next week, Monday the 21st. Tuesday the 22nd, the sun, the big news, sun moving out of Virgo into Libra. So you're looking for justification. You're looking for to balance everything. That's the balance of the scales. And so karma comes into this. But then also love and beauty. There's that whole Venus vibe is part of this, which is very much part of the solution. That's all I wanted to say there. Just the sun in Libra is going to be more airy. It's a more mental construct here. Even though Mercury also in Libra is in a square, so mind is both eased and conflicted. But this is more of the ego is eased over here. All right, lastly, there's a brief grand trine. It's a grand fire trine at the very end of this week. That's Wednesday, the 23rd. And you've got Venus, who has gained another adjustment. So lots of adjustments for Venus, but she is along with Mars and the Moon and the South Node for a grand Earth trine. Grand fire trine. Fire energy. It's red and it is fiery. So the general sense of fire is I want to emanate. Things get hot, obviously, in fire. There's light. It's a yang sort of environment where everyone's looking out for themselves, maybe wanting to be recognized, that sort of thing. That's the fire energy. Maybe impulsive, quick to act, and but it's a positive sense, and it's easy energy between males and females, Mars and Venus, and then also your emotions and the moon. So the emotions should ease up, but really get passionate that day on Wednesday. Maybe had enough of the T-square. And by the way, Mercury is going to be the one that breaks that T-square first. Mars is in retrograde, so it's going to be making these squares even stronger. So once Mercury gets past that point, we've got the T-square that ends, and hopefully we finally see some reprieve from this just nasty energy. All right, I-Ching, ready? We toss the coins out, and what we got is hexagram 54. That's careful affection. What the heck is that? Affection is an important part of intimate relationships, but it must be handled carefully to be both satisfying and supportive for each person's self-respect. It is easy to make disastrous mistakes when you venture outside the bounds of propriety. If you assert yourself too much, or try to make yourself indispensable, you will invite misfortune. If you are in doubt as to whether you should follow your heart or your head, allow some time to pass and perhaps the answer will become more clear. Boldly asserting yourself right now could bring misfortune. That's why I made that very much underlined, heavy, highlighted that, is because there's an irony here. You just saw the everything, including the grand trine, is a fire trine. So you're going to be wanting to go and assert with that, all that fire energy. And of course, the T-square conflicted energy is going to make you want to be idealistic as well, probably, or conflicted. That's going to bring you misfortune. So don't do that. And then the top line: within an intimate relationship, irreverence and cynicism will kill the magic that lies at the heart of a bond. So this is kind of touching on the solution. Whether you're in a relationship or you're contemplating it in the future, a union of the heart only works when both parties are concerned about their mate's happiness as they are about their own. So in this regard, the top line 6 is suggesting that you give a little bit of empathy. There are a lot of empathy this week, but this is the influence, not the solution. We're going to change. We're going to put this change line in and get to the solution next. Yeah, that looks okay. Well, if you're wanting coaching, life coaching, mental health counseling, or an astrological reading for any kind, transits, birth charts, or even projected charts for today or this week, or maybe sometime in the future when you're in you're trying to decide something important. Maybe it's in October, and we can shoot your chart out into October and look at what the stars are telling you for the actions you should take. And I successfully got rid of a sneeze. All right, so hexagram 38 is the solution according to the I-Ching. This is diverging interests. All right, so it's not about complying. It's not about taking a side even. Well, let me just go ahead and read some of this. Some level of estrangement is indicated. Well, surprise, surprise. Maybe they saw the T-square. For example, when brothers and sisters choose partners and marry, they often grow apart. Simply put, when people grow apart, even the most natural of reasons, their points of view, values, interests, and schedules diverge. It's the diverging of interests. People change, ideas change, people get more idealistic. When diverging interests make a situation seem stagnant or futile, remember that there are always creative possibilities inherent in polarities. One is reminded of the interplay of the opposites, yin and yang, which is fundamental to life. And so, as you see that diagram, you have that little seed or circle inside of the yin and the yang. So there's seeds of the other in that polarity. So look for that. And that's the suggesting that if you can do that well, you can be more creative. If opposition has its roots in issues of principle, you must hold on to your integrity and individuality. Let go of vulgar or self-absorbed people who do not share your values. With both people and companies, one measure of stature is the quality of one's competition. So it's almost part of this reading is saying that, you do want to look at your competition, not to get ahead, but to assess how well you're doing. Because if you're the only one out there, like a monopoly, and you don't have any competition, that doesn't necessarily suggest that you're doing everything right. One of the could be indicators of success is gaining a lot more competition. That's what this is kind of saying. So don't be afraid that you've got a lot of competition. Don't be afraid of the other side. It's basically stand your ground but appreciate the polarities. All right. Now, this was hard to plot the solution. All right, so what we do is we take the tropical, we find the main energy in the tropical, which I think it would be either the sun going into Libra or Venus in Leo with a grand trine. And I think it's both. And I think there's some other indicators here and there are other influences here in this chart. But I think the main one is Venus. Again, this is the second time in a row. And thus, we have 47 2 weeks in a row, hexagram 47. And you're going to see that this is the same sort of thing. I had to use this hexagram, and I know several clients who had to use this hexagram 47 from the Rave Mandala to make it through last week without great consternation. So then we also have Leo again. All right, so let's go through those. 47, as you remember, is the gate of realizing. This is the gate of realization, but it is not a comfortable process. Since most of you were here last week, I'll say this. This is an ongoing process. It's the gate of oppression. This is the ongoing process. The format of the sensing circuit is cyclic. The secret to handling such a process is also the secret to the entire circuit. Patience. Patience. It's the only waiting, but it's not. If you remember, it's not the stagnant patience. It's the recognizing, accepting that there's that sensation of oppression, and then pushing forth what you can do. It may be minuscule, but do that. Don't complain. Push forth, and then figure out how to be patient. It's this week again. That has not changed from last week. So there's part of your solution as well. And so let's get to the summary slide, shall we? We had conflict and mistrust. That's the influence. And it's if that's all you see this week is a girl just looking confused at you, well, congratulations, because there's some places in this world that are under massive attack. Northwest, mainly all the Democratic states. And otherwise, we have massive peace breaking out in places like Arab and Israel, this monumental peace accord. And it baffles me how even that can't be talked about on mainstream media. It can't be recognized that is a monumental thing. And if you recognize what that means for world peace, which is something that, ironically, the liberals have always wanted was peace, supposedly, and yet they never could find it. And this guy, supposedly, who is a tyrannical, crazy man, supposedly now is actually having signed documents that are peace accords. Now, only the future will tell if that peace holds up, but monumental, and that should be recognized by everybody. So anyway, peace is breaking out, but yeah, there is a lot of conflict, and it's so easy to see. All right, just a review. The I-Ching 38 said diverging interests. It says hold on to your integrity, but honor the polarities and recognize that there's polarities. Recognize that there's creativity in the polarities. Then remember the Rave Mandala 47, gate of realization, the gate of oppression. It feels like a burden. It feels like unsolved pressure. So you have to be patient. You have to do what you can do and then be patient. Then the sidereal is Leo. This is, I like this energy, even though I'm on the opposite spectrum. Over opposite of Leo is Aquarius. Sometimes has a hard time with this energy, but I've enjoyed having it while we're having this T-square and conflicted energy. Sidereal Leo says be friendly, charismatic, work on being kind and organized. Creative, though. Childlike, wonderment, optimistic. All right, here we go. Here's the overall triangulation. We get a face full of reality. That's from the Dreambot. We have a feeling of skepticism. That's what I think a lot of people are going to see in each other. I mean, let's face it. You've got people wearing masks. You can't see most of their facial expressions. So there's already a sense of mistrust, right? And then you've got extreme ideological conflict. I think that's all mostly programmed. I can't imagine that people with altruistic thoughts really have that ideology, but hey, whatever. Extreme ideological conflict is out there, etc. All right, actively being patient, sitting on your hands, biting your tongue. Whatever you choose to be patient is absolutely critical. The Leo solution affords great creativity, kindness, charisma, optimism. Watch for and suppress impulsiveness, domineering, laziness. This is not a period about laying around lazily. Doesn't it sound familiar from last week? It's not about just laying around. It is doing what you can do. And like our tainted shower that we've got to replace, it's what can I do right now? And there are a few things, but it's a waiting game right now as we try and find ways to get that changed out. Boost creativity by first trying to understand the extremes of the polarities, but hold to your integrity and individuality. No compromising your values. Well, that's about it this week, folks. I wish I had better news, but that energy is coming. This can't last forever, and this conflict can't last forever. As you can see, the silver linings are happening. Monumental changes in the level of peace and harmony are out there. They're not well recognized for certain parts of MSM and in people's minds. And there's a lot of hate being spewed. Don't be a part of that hate. Don't be a part of that bipolar sense and duality. But there's the irony. Honor the polarities. You're going to get, maybe not honor is not a good word. Maybe try to understand the other side. But you don't have to take on that other side. You don't have to fight it. Can you recognize that it's there? And when you do, when you recognize that both sides have opinions, that's when the creativity really starts. So lots of acceptance for ideas and ideals, a lot of free will, but also be yourself. Honor your individuality. Don't succumb to other people's ideologies. All right? I hope that's enough. If not, get a hold of me, comment below. Check out interzension.com and see what you think. Give me some feedback on it. All right? See you next week, guys and gals. Blessings to all.